Number 3?
Psoas major.
Psoas major. So you can see these two join together. Where are they going to attach?
Lesser trochanter.
Lesser trochanter. So when they contract, what are they going to do?
Flexion.
Flex.
Flex your leg.
At the hip. They flex the thigh at the hip. Now, I want to show you something here. This muscle here, that's just inferior to the iliopsoas, this is the pectineus. We're not going to study the pectineus. But below that, along the medial aspect, these are adductors, ADD. I'll come back to adductors a little bit later. Again, just to show you the lumbar plexus. Okay. Coming off the lumbar plexus, you have the femoral nerve. The femoral nerve is going to serve muscles in the anterior thigh. And then here, green, obturator, which is going to serve muscles along the medial aspect of the thigh. Okay. This is part of the iliopsoas. Here's that pectineus here that I said we weren't going to study. These 3 muscles down here are adductors. Okay? Adductor muscles. Let's see if we're doing the adductors next. Yeah, the adductors. And in fact, the adductors are a group of muscles. For instance, you have the adductor brevis, you have the adductor longus, you have the adductor magnus. I'm not going to ask you to know the individual adductors. Okay? I just want you to recognize that they all originate from the pubic bone. That's the key. They originate from the pubic bone, and they insert upon the linea aspera. You remember what the linea aspera is?
And it's the middle of the...
Yeah, it's a ridge along the posterior aspect of the femur. So, these muscles are originating along the pubic bone here and extending laterally to insert upon the linea aspera of the femur. So when they contract, it should be clear that it's going to bring the thigh in. It's going to adduct, as the name implies. These are adductors. This is another view, and they're showing you the adductors, what they're doing. They're coming in this direction here to attach, here they are here, to attach to the linea aspera back here. Now, there's a special adductor. It's the strap-like muscle here that runs along the medial aspect of the thigh. It's not called an adductor. It's called the gracilis. Gracilis. Let's see if we can see it. If you look here, this strap-like muscle that's running along the inside or medial aspect of the thigh, it's a fairly superficial muscle. It's a strap muscle. See it? That's called the gracilis. I think of it as a modified adductor. Let's look at this larger lower trap here. Okay. This is the gracilis. It's a long strap muscle. In physical appearance, it resembles the sartorius, meaning it's a long, thin muscle. But it's running along the medial aspect of the thigh. I call it a modified adductor because it has the same purpose. It adducts the thigh and the hip. It originates from the same site, from the pubic bone. And then the only thing is that it's going to attach a little more distally. Instead of attaching to the femur at the linea aspera, it's going to attach to the tibia, just below the medial condyle. So it's going to come down here and attach just below the knee joint, just below the medial condyle of the tibia. But the function of the gracilis and the adductors is the same. Adduct the thigh and the hip. The innervation is going to be the same. Because these muscles are all located along the medial aspect of the thigh, what nerve is going to innervate the adductors and the gracilis?
Obturator.
Obturator.
Oh,
The obturator. Now, with regard to the surface anatomy here, you can see really nicely the sartorius crossing over. Gets the anterior superior iliac spine, crosses over to the medial aspect of the tibia. Now, with respect to the anterior thigh, there's a group of 4 muscles. 1, 2, 3, and there's one that's neat to this one. Okay? These 4 muscles are called the quadriceps muscles. The quadriceps is actually a group of 4 muscles. I think that you can see it better on tiny maybe. Maybe I was. We're missing a piece of this muscle here, vertical piece. What's it? That's it. Okay. I'm going to go through the 4 parts. The 4 parts of the quadriceps. The quadriceps sits along the anterior aspect of the thigh, and the anterior-most component is called the rectus femoris. It looks like a feather. If you just look at this particular muscle, it looks like a feather. It's straight, hence the term rectus. It sits along the anterior-most aspect of the quadriceps. Now, it's going to originate from the anterior inferior iliac spine. Okay. So if we look at Skinny, this is anterior superior. Down here is anterior inferior. So the fact that it's originating from the pelvic bone tells you it's crossing the hip joint. Okay. Now, all of the quadriceps muscles insert on the tibial tuberosity via the patellar ligament. Hold on, I want to get a bottle. I'll be right back.
What? 13. Not too bad though. Vastus lateralis. I don't think we're going to need it for those. Vastus lateralis.
Okay. Here's the quadriceps tendon. The quadriceps tendon represents a fusion or joining of all of the tendons of the 4 quadriceps muscle, including the rectus femoris. The rectus femoris, this tendon, joins the patella. Okay? Beyond the patella, the tendon becomes the patellar ligament, which then attaches to the tibial tuberosity. So you can think of the tendons of the quadriceps muscles as either attaching to the patella or attaching to the tibial tuberosity by way of this patellar ligament. Okay? Because this band of dense regular connective tissue envelops the patella and extends beyond that to the tibial tuberosity. All right. What you need to know about the rectus femoris is it's the only one of the 4 muscles within the quadriceps group that attaches to the pelvis, that crosses the hip joint. Remember, its origin is the anterior inferior iliac spine. The other 3 muscles originate from the femur.
So the rectus femoris only attaches to the pelvis?
It's the only one that originates from the pelvis. The other 3 muscles within the quadriceps group originate from the femur. The other 3 muscles are called vastus. V-A-S-T-U-S. Vastus muscles. Okay. So this muscle, or the quadriceps that's located medial to the rectus femoris, is called the vastus medialis. The vastus medialis. Number 18. Vastus medialis. Now, the one that's located lateral to the rectus femoris would be the vastus lateralis. And the one that's located deep, I'd have to remove the rectus femoris to see it. That would be called the vastus intermedius. They all join to form the quadriceps tendon that attaches to the patella. This band of connective tissue extends beyond the patella as the patellar ligament to attach to the tibial tuberosity. Now, if the muscle is located along the anterior thigh, what nerve is going to provide innervation? Femoral nerve. What's going to be the function? When this muscle contracts, what function is it going to have?
Flexion.
Not flexion.
Extension.
Extension of the leg at the knee. It's going to mediate the knee-jerk reflex. Remember, we said the femoral nerve is going to carry fibers 2, 3, and 4, L2, 3, from 2, 3, and 4. Now, the rectus femoris, though, unlike the other three muscles of the quadriceps, has an additional function. Because it crosses the hip joint, it participates in flexion of the thigh at the hip, like you're kicking a football. When you pump the ball, you're flexing the thigh at the hip, but you're extending the knee. So that involves the quadriceps.
No. When you do that, you're just flexing your femoris.
All right. So if we look at this picture here, this muscle, it looks like a feather. It's going to be rectus femoris, vastus medialis, vastus lateralis is on the other side, and intermedius is deep to it. Rectus femoris. Now, they show here number 22, the intermedius. In order to see the intermedius, you have to remove, they've cut away here the rectus femoris, and the intermedius sits just below it.
So just like mostly tendon, it looks like?
Well, a lot of it is tendon. That white part is tendon. It's major muscle that gives shape to the buttocks.
Maximus.
Gluteus maximus. Okay. It's originated, here's the iliac crest. So the posterior aspect of the iliac crest, okay, it's also originating from the sacrum, all the way down here to the coccyx. So posterior part of the iliac crest, the sacrum, and the coccyx. And its fibers are running laterally to attach to this connective tissue band that runs along the lateral aspect of the thigh. That's called the iliotibial band. So this is the iliotibial band. Okay? And that's the insertion for the gluteus maximus. Now, the main role of the gluteus maximus is extension of the thigh at the hip. Okay? But for simple extension, for instance, when I walk, when I go to move my left leg forward, I'm extending my thigh at the hip. Well, for walking, we don't really use the gluteus maximum much. It's only when the thigh is flexed, like in this position, and we go to extend. that we use the gluteus max. So it's usually used for forceful extension, as when you're climbing or jumping. Okay? Or when you do, what do you call these exercises here? Lunges, when you're doing lunges. In other words, when you're extending from a flexed position. Okay? Now, deep to the gluteus max, this muscle here, that's originating from the lateral aspect of the ilium. Okay, right here. That's the gluteus medius. The gluteus medius is going to attach to the greater trochanter here. Okay, so that when it contracts, it's going to cause abduction of the thigh at the hip. Okay, like when you're doing a jumping jack. You abduct. That's gluteus medius. It's contracting, and when it pulls on the lateral trochanter, it moves the thigh out. It abducts. Now, the nerves that provide innervation to the gluteus muscles, the gluteus max is a nerve called inferior gluteal nerve, and the gluteus medius, superior gluteal nerve. Now, the gluteal nerves are branches off of the sacral plexus. Now, the posterior aspect of the thigh is a little bit tricky. This is where we find a group of muscles called the hamstrings. That's a group of three. The lateralmost muscle, this one here, is called the biceps. Not the biceps brachii, but the biceps femoris. Okay, so the lateralmost muscle of the hamstring group is the biceps femoris. All right. Then when we go medial to it, this one is called the semitendinosus. And if you look, there's a little sliver of muscle coming out even more medial here. This is called the semimembranosus. And the way I remember that it's the medialmost muscle is that the membranosus begins with an M. So semimembranosus is medial to the semitendinosus, which is medial to the biceps femoris. So again, it's a group of three muscles, semimembranosus, semitendinosus, and biceps femoris. Now, here's what you need to remember about their origin. They all originate from the ischial tuberosity. That's an easy way to remember it. They all originate from the ischial tuberosity. The biceps femoris is actually a two-headed muscle. It's got two bellies and hence two tendons. But the long tendon is the one that attaches to the ischial tuberosity. Now, distally, the biceps femoris, the lateralmost, is going to attach to the lateral condyle of the tibia, as well as the fibular head. So down here, it's the lateralmost muscle, so you would expect it to attach to the lateral condyle of the tibia and the fibular head. Whereas on the other side, the semimembranosus is the medialmost muscle, so it's going to attach to the medial condyle of the tibia. And the semitendinosus is also going to attach to the medial part of the tibia. innervation, sciatic nerve. Now, because these muscles cross the hip joint and the knee joint, they're going to participate in two different actions. They're going to extend the thigh at the hip. Okay. And then with regard, because they attach to the tibia, they're going to flex the knee. I'll give you an example. Does anyone here watch sitcoms, old sitcoms on TV? There's one called Bewitched.
Oh, yeah.
Do you like that? What's the name of the wife, the witch? Samantha. What's the husband's name? Darren. And there's two Darrens. There's an old Darren. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, my mom told me about it.
And a new Darren. Okay? And what's odd is that although she's a witch, she's entered into this agreement with Darren that she's going to live life as a mortal. Okay? So that's kind of the notion here. And so every evening, Darren comes home. For some reason, he doesn't have a key. Or maybe he does have a key, but he knocks on the door. And then she opens, or no, he does have a key. He opens the door and he yells, "Hey, Sam, I'm home." Okay, have you all seen this? And she comes up to him. She embraces, okay? And she does a little foot kick like this. Okay, and she kisses him. She does this. And you see that a lot, the little foot kick. Okay, and you see that a lot in old movies, right?
Yeah.
When the ladies go to embrace or to give a kiss, they do this business. Okay? Well, that's all about the hamstrings. In other words, it extends the thigh at the hip and it flexes the knee. Now, I've come up with a little memory aid to help in remembering the hamstrings. I like to close the door when I talk about this little memory aid. It'll be a little embarrassing. Has anyone here ever served as a cheerleader? How many people have been a cheerleader? Go ahead. Two of you. Chris?
No, unfortunately.
All right. Okay, there was a cheer. I don't know if you've heard of this one. It goes something like, Big Apple, Little Apple, Susan Q.
No.
It must be really old.
All right, there's another one. 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits a dollar.
Yeah, I know that one.
Everyone for our team, stand up and holler, something like this.
Yeah.
All right, so it goes like 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits a dollar. Okay? That cadence is important. 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits a dollar.
Yeah, all for the Cougars stand up and
Bicep.
That's right.
We used to
So,
go out candy.
so the way I think of it is this.
Tenderness.
Semi-memmy, semi-tendy, biceps Morris. Okay? Semi-memmy, semi-tendy, biceps femoris. Does that help?
How is it supposed to be?
Well, because if you remember the cadence, it's easy to remember these muscles. And remember, these are going medial to lateral. Because membranosus is the first, it begins with an M. Medial. Semitendinosus is between. Biceps femoris is the most lateral.
Yeah, so it's outside.
Now, if you do it right, you can remember the function. Semi-memmy, semi-tendy, biceps femoris, like that. Okay? Because then when you do that part, when you throw the kick in there, then that's the function. Okay? So, who wants to volunteer? Now, JJ, you volunteered before. Let someone else volunteer. Hunter, you volunteered. Kat? Alex?
Cat.
You know
Who's
they're
like
not
that?
Chris?
good, so-
Chris,
Yeah,
Chris,
go,
you never
Chris.
do nothing. Go.
I always do everything.
He's always doing everything.
You do. I'm talking about volunteering.
All right. So, the idea is that, and it sounds silly, but in the practical, I see people doing this. You know, semi-memmy, semi-tendy, biceps femoris. Those are your 3 hamstrings. and they extend the thigh at the hip and flex the knee.
You're saying oh yeah, that's right. Extending the thigh.
Go do the
Okay.
dance.
All right.
Wait, so is it left, right, and then?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Oh my
Semi-memi,
God.
it would have to be, no, let's do it. It
See,
doesn't
it
matter.
would
Medial-
have to
Semi-memi. It depends on the, well, it depends on the leg. If we're doing the right leg, then this would be the medial side.
Okay, well, we're
Semi-memi,
just
semi-tendy, biceps femoris, like that. You can do, so whatever works for you.
Yeah, because the semi-memory is memi is like right here,
It's
and
medial,
then
right.
this one, and
Semi-tendy and
yeah,
then
that's how I was
biceps.
just gonna remember.
Wait, do it again.
So does that
So
matter
just
which side?
Semi. It doesn't.
Semi-memi, semi-tendy, biceps femoris,
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense?
I'll just
Medial to
remember
lateral.
you.
Like first you were saying the contour. First you said semi-memi on the right.
I know, I screwed it up.
That confuses
Oh.
you.
So semi-memi should be left.
Just think
Well,
you're
you
going
do it the
medial
right
to
leg,
lateral as you
so
go.
Right, left arm is medial.
Yeah.
It's for the foot.
But the thing you remember is semi-memi is going to be medial because memi is for medial.
Semi-memi, and then it's
Semi-memi.
semi-memi. Because the words get shorter as you go outside.
Yeah, I'm not saying the whole muscle name. I'm not saying semi-membranosus. I'm just saying semi-memi. I'm
That's
giving
how I
it-
was gonna remember it. The words get shorter as you go outside, and then you just and if I'm gonna remember them. See, like as you're in the middle, they're long, and then it gets shorter.
Okay.
The
Here's the
iliac-
lateral aspect of the knee. That's that iliotibial band. This is the biceps femoris.
iliotibial band. Connects the
Okay. The tibialis anterior. This is the leg now. The leg, remember, being the part of the lower extremity from knee to ankle.
Has it on the
The only anterior leg muscle I want you to know is tibialis anterior. It originates from the upper third of the tibia. That's the word tibialis. And inserts upon the first metatarsal down here. So when you contract the tibialis anterior, it causes dorsiflexion. Dorsiflexion. Pick up your toes. So when you walk, okay, you contract your tibialis anterior. You lift up your toes. Dorsiflexion. If you don't lift up your toes, you will trip. The tibial nerve, the sciatic nerve. Is really a combination of the tibial and the common perineal. Or it can also be called the common fibula. The fibula and perineal are the same. So the sciatic is equal to the tibial and the common perineal joined together. Okay? These nerves separate at the level of the knee. So at the knee, it separates into a tibial and common perineal or common fibula. Okay? And the tibular component is going to innervate the muscles in the back of the leg. But the common perineal is going to branch, and the deep perineal branch off of the common perineal innervates the tibialis anterior. The deep perineal nerve, which comes off the common perineal, innervates the tibialis anterior. The reason this is important is that many times patients will develop a perineal palsy. Particularly diabetics can develop a palsy or dysfunction of the perineal nerve. And therefore they can't bring up their foot when they walk. They can't lift up the toes. They can't dorsiflex. And so what happens is they tend to fall a lot. They trip.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And what they have to do then is they have to be fitted then for an AFO.
He's like, he just falls.
All right, and so if that happens, they're fitted with what's called an AFO. It's a brace, which stands for an ankle foot orthotic. Okay. So what this AFO does is it keeps the foot at a right angle so that the toes can't drop with walking. Because if the toes drop, you're gonna fall. You can trip over something.
They'll never be able to fix that.
Usually not.
Oh.
So usually wear a brace to keep the foot up so that when you walk, it doesn't trip. Okay. Now, if we turn the leg around, this muscle that you see on the surface
Oh yeah.
is called the gastrocnemius. The gastrocnemius originates from the medial and lateral condyles of the femur. And it inserts upon the calcaneus through the Achilles tendon or the calcaneal tendon. They mean the same thing. Calcaneal tendon and Achilles tendon are the same. So the gastrocnemius is originating from the medial and lateral condyles of the femur and inserting upon the calcaneus. Okay, through the Achilles tendon. Now, it's going to plantar flex the foot. It's going to cause plantar flexion, just the opposite of the tibialis anterior. Just the opposite. So when you stand on your toes, it's all about the gastrocnemius. All right? We said that the sciatic is innervating all the muscles of the lower extremity, from the posterior thigh on down. It's the tibial component, the tibial nerve, that comes off below the knee that innervates the gastrocnemius. The last muscle that's on your list is called the soleus, S-O-L-E-U-S, and it sits deep to the gastrocnemius. You have to remove the gastrocnemius, as we've done here, in order to see it. Now, it's going to originate not up from the femur, but below that, from the tibia and the fibula. It's going to originate from the proximal tibia and fibula, and its tendon is going to join the tendon of the gastrocnemius. So the Achilles tendon really represents a fusion of the gastrocnemius tendon and the soleus tendon. So that means that its insertion is also the calcaneus, and its function is the same. Plantar flexion, standing on the toes.
Make up
The Achilles tendon. Okay? Its innervation, again, tibial nerve. So it allows you to point the foot. So when you're doing, what do they call that in ballet? Does anyone know?
releve.
What is it called?
It's called releve.
Maybe releve.
Releve.
Or when you're doing like you're in gymnastics and you have to walk like this.
Yes. Well, actually, color guard do that a lot too.
Right.
That's how the calf stops.
Or if you're diving and you have to point your toes when you dive.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about plantar flexion. Yes.
So I have a question because on Kill Bill, when the girl was trying to escape from the hospital, she cut the man like right here. So if that's cut, is there any way that you can repair that?
Oh yeah, it happens all the time. Sometimes athletes will rupture their Achilles tendon.
I did.
Yeah,
That
it
hurt
takes a
more than
long time to
anything.
heal up. How long did it take for it to heal?
7 months.
Yeah, usually, like if it's a football player, they're out for that season.
I was.
You can't come back until the following season. It's a little bit slow to heal. Now,
Full back.
Alex, I put this one up here for you. She's gonna, wait, she gave me the stink eye as soon as I said that.
That looks like chocolate.
So what you see is a well-developed gastrocnemius here. If you ever see like somebody who, like around my house, there's this little bridge that crosses over to General de Gaulle, and you see a lot of people riding bicycles over the bridge in the early morning, sometimes in the evening as well. But these bicyclists, they all have really prominent gastrocnemius muscles if you ever look at them, right? So if you look at someone who does a lot of bicycle work, gastrocnemius is really prominent. Can you see, that's the Achilles tendon. Can you see the soleus? No, it's deep.
Oh.
Deep to that. Wow. Okay. Now, here's the amazing thing, is that in terms of lectures, I think that's it. I think we've covered all the PowerPoints we need to cover this semester. Yeah. So it gives you, when's the next test, on Friday?
Yeah,
Or is it on Wednesday?
Friday.
So you really have a lot of time. It's not this, no, it's next Friday.
Yes.
Okay.
Not this Friday.
So, and then the final exam is after that. So you have a lot of time to prepare. In the classes that we have next week, Monday and Wednesday, we can just review. Okay, but to make those reviews, even more pertinent and more helpful, is you have to try to study a little bit.
So we can answer the questions.
Over the thing, like I want you to enjoy Wednesday and Thursday, Thanksgiving break, but that maybe that Saturday and Sunday, you can spend a little time with your folks, maybe.
No, Renaissance Festival is Saturday. Party.
So we're keeping
Renaissance
the.
Festival. I have been waiting for that for 2 months. That is my day.
Okay.
I'm not thinking about anything. So
No. So
before that, and after that, that's what I'm focused on.
you can develop an alternative plan. You can plan that for tomorrow and maybe Wednesday.
Because I did most of my flashcards. Now I just have to do flashcards from the last month that we just finished. And then that's when I'll start. And then me and Cash FaceTime and study.
Now, the